Hey, how's it going? It's Grant with the Garden of Eater, and this is part 3 to the series of saving Eddie's shrimp room. And well, it's mission success. We've got the green light, and if you know me, you know Eddie, you know Shelby, and what we're gonna do with the green light, well, it's about to get crazy. So first of all, let's start off with how we got the green light. Basically, I was going through a series of checklists that we should accomplish in order to get the spouse's approval. We went through 2 of them, and then we were kind of working on another couple at the same time. One of them was, if you're looking for a new type of fish, one of the little tricks that I have is scroll through them with your spouse and pay attention to their reactions. If you're scrolling through a fish and all of a sudden their eyes light up, their mouth drops, or they start to smile, chances are you're gonna have a greater chance of getting that fish than the other ones where they're just like, I don't really care for that one. Now for Eddie, he's got it really easy because his wife just likes the color orange. It's her favorite color. So basically anything Eddie's gonna go ahead and come home that's orange in color, she's not gonna be upset about. So while we were at one of the local club meetings, Eddie picked up some orange crawfish, the dwarf CPOs, the Mexican dwarf crayfish, and then he also got some orange swordtails and guppies. And she didn't just want something orange, she also wanted something that had really nice fins, something flowy, that was gonna be a nice centerpiece on their countertop, not just for her and her kid, but for, when company guests come over to the house, something nice to look at, but also this is kind of something that got her sparked back into the hobby because when it all first started out, she was actually the one that wanted a tank at first, and then, Eddie kind of just took off and ran with it. Very similar to what I did with Shelby. At first, she had the tanks when I didn't at the time. I had tanks before, but when she had tanks at her house, I kind of just blew up with it as well and just went with a ton of tanks at my house as well. And well, now that she's back into it, she's also really happy that some of the fish have started producing fry. That's going to be like one of the big time, get your spouse involved into it because cute little baby fish, who doesn't love that? It's great for the whole family. And right there you might think we've already got hook, line, sinker, reeled it in. But it wasn't just that. I mentioned we were working on other things too. And well, most of it has just been Eddie hard at work. In the fish room, he's made a lot of changes. So far, we've got breeding for profit, saving space, and getting your spouse more involved into the hobby. But the 4th one I've got is making things look nicer. So going through Eddie's shrimp room, saving space, moving things to the side, gave us room to work and build new stands and, well, tidying things up a bit and giving him a nice solid backdrop because eventually it would be really nice to have him come onto our live streams or even him having his own time slot and doing more videos on his channel is what we've got planned for him in the future. And just to go over a few of the improvements Eddie's made to the shrimp room, the first one is him and Ariana went ahead and painted the walls. The blue color not only looks good, but the paint on the walls is going to help with any splashing or dripping that might happen while doing water changes or a little condensation and waterproofing the walls. And then next on the list is he went ahead and gone through and changed out the stands. Before he had the cinder blocks and 2x4s, and he also has Steve's stand, and that's great, temporary and everything like that. But Eddie has already mentioned that it doesn't really give him enough working space in between the tanks and the gap in between where the next tanks start. So for that reason, he wanted to go through and make tanks with a little bit more elbow room, and the 55-gallon stands and everything that he had beforehand, there wasn't a lot of room to work, and it was only 2 levels or 1 tank. So he's gone through and built a triple-decker stand so he can fit 55 gallons on the bottom row, 20-gallon longs on the middle row, and then he can either do 20s on top or 10s. And he didn't just build 1 stand, he built 2 stands. And the second stand is just for 10-gallon tanks. This is going to go ahead and allow him to free up all the tanks on Steven's old stand. And he's going to go through, take out the plywood, and that's going to give him a little bit more wiggle room. And then he's going to just brace it with another 2x4 going across so the 10-gallon tanks can just sit on the stand and not on the plywood. It's going to give him more space and therefore the entire room is going to be able to hold more tanks, be more efficient. All the stands are painted this time, so the whole room is already looking a lot better. And the third and final thing I'm going to mention is he's gone ahead and upgraded his closed loop airline system. Instead of his 1/2 inch, he's upgraded to 3/4 inch. He's going to do a whole airline system that wraps around the entire room instead of having multiple pumps with different air loop systems going. So that way everything's more efficient. He's going to end up saving money, and overall it's going to look a lot better with less PVC all over the place. So I know the room isn't finished and Eddie's still got a lot of work to do, but we've kind of been slacking on putting out videos, especially with Eddie's series. We wanted to do a video every month to keep you guys updated, but everything's just gotten way too busy for us here. And I always said, if the videos are ever going to take up from doing time from our projects and other things, that we just weren't going to do them. We're doing the live streams, so we're staying involved in putting out content. And well, we're getting a lot of things done, not only here, but with Eddie as much as we possibly can as well. So Eddie's got a lot of work to be done. We got a lot of future projects to be shown, but like I mentioned earlier, we got the green light and things are about to get crazy. So let me go into that. So now Shelby and myself have always had this dream of the kind of farm to table with food aspect in the pet industry. We want something where we don't necessarily have a storefront, but we've got an online store where everything is bred in-house and we know full knowledge of that animal, to where we can offer full customer service to the people who are purchasing off of our website, or if eventually we have a storefront, go that route. But not just, longevity of the critter's life, but how to breed it. Any aspect of what we sell, we would like to be able to help the customer with. So we never wanted to get too big where we're dealing with so many different aspects of the hobby that we can't cover all of that. So we're expanding very slowly. I know it seems like we're buying a lot of fish, but we are kind of just doing nano fish and certain types of live bearers and stuff like that, stuff that we know we can handle, we can learn about, and then when we're ready to start selling those, we can help and expand that knowledge onto the customer. However, we are getting to the size where we want to bring on other things, so we want to partner up and not hire on other people, but bring on other team members such as Eddie, such as Gary. Also, if you haven't seen our dwarf neons, we're going to be bringing on other breeders, local members to the team that we can work with and offer different varieties of aspects of the hobby. And well, Eddie is going to be incorporated really big with doing this. A lot of things that we want to start doing is CARES projects, where we get endangered or extinct in the wild species. And well, it'd be really cool if I keep a colony going at the house here with Shelby, and then Eddie keeps a colony going over at his house as well. So if something ever happens to one of our colonies, we've got a follow-up that we can expand and keep that colony going in the hobby. It's not just us two going to be breeding it, but part of keeping that creature going and staying alive instead of going extinct altogether. But with us, me and Shelby have already kind of gotten to a point where we can't really show you how we started and built everything from the ground up. However, Eddie is still really small in a stage of the hobby where he's at, that we would really like to bring on and show how he's going to grow and kind of the implements that we're going to be taking into effect for that breeding for profit, kind of like what we did in the first episode. So from now on, this is where the series is basically going to go. We're going to go through and show you exactly how Eddie's going to be working with us, what Eddie's going to be breeding and doing and growing, so that way he can incorporate TGOE with his Eddie D Aquatics. And then moving forward, we're going to have a lot of projects that, we're going to be bouncing off of one another, not just content, but breeding, growing plants, and also products. And like I mentioned, Eddie is still growing. His name might be Eddie D Aquatics, or Shelby even mentioned that it should be Aquatics by Eddie D. So there's a lot of things to work on and things to improve, but if you've seen so far in just the series of where he's come from so far in such a short amount of time, I'm expecting great things from Eddie and other team members such as Gary, and we've even got another person with cichlids that we might be working with in the future. So we don't have a lot of space here on our little small quarter acre, 1,100 square foot home, but bringing on Eddie as a team member really expands what we can do because he's got a lot more property over there. And by property, he's got a nice little slanted slope, and we plan on setting up quite a few ponds that are going to overflow into one another, and it's going to be a set in series so we can really start cranking out a lot of aquatics. Plus, he's on a well. We don't have that advantage over here. I'm limited to how much water I can use. So as soon as we can get stuff cranking out of Eddie's house, it's really going to be a lot of good future content. So if you're not already subscribed, head over to his channel. Shelby will put the link in the description because, like I mentioned, the name might change. Who knows what it's going to be by then. But once things are set in stone, you should have a tab, you know, on the Garden of Eater shrimp.com page, where it'll be a tab for Eddie or a tab for Gary, where it's going to be homebred aquatics, you know, shipped out via me and Shelby, but it's going to be bred by Eddie, Gary, or other very local breeders. So very excited to be expanding. If you're not growing, you're dying. And I think that's going to be all for this video. We've really got a lot of planned. I hope you're all as excited as we are. And with that being said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.